Season 4 of Anno 1800 has started with the Seeds of Change DLC, which introduced multiple new functionalities and a new scenario. I've already covered on the channel a lot about this new scenario, the fertilizer functionality with a huge poop island, but I haven't talked much about the new mega building, the Hacienda, that you can see here on the screen. I did recently post a video about the policies, because in each of the haciendas, so one per island, you can select one policy that will affect the whole island, showing if they are useful or not and in which context you may want to use specific policies. Don't hesitate to check on the channel, also in the video description below, for all of those videos. But today we will focus on something else. Today we will focus on the hacienda farms. We'll discuss how powerful they can be, but also some challenges that I will help you overcome to take advantage of those hacienda farms. Concretely, we will use the example of caoutchouc, but as you can see, the hacienda can have many different farms: sugarcane, corn, coffee, and others, including old world productions like grain and potatoes, also Mbesa, like the spices. I'm thinking of also covering coffee in a very different video to show you how you can now produce tons of coffee a lot more easier. Don't hesitate to share in the comments below if you will be interested in that coffee video. But before we dive into this specific caoutchouc example, let's indeed quickly review what the hacienda does for farms in general. If you know that and you just want to get into the meat of this video, feel free to use the chapter functionality of YouTube to get to that directly. All of the hacienda farms only have 64 modules. Only 64, which is a lot less than all of your normal farms. For example, the coffee plantation was 168, caoutchouc 144. Secondly, those hacienda farms don't even need fertilities. For example, this hacienda coffee farm is working right now. You can see it even if I don't have the coffee fertility. On those hacienda farms, like the normal ones, you can also have tractors and the fertilizer silo. They are also impacted by all of the same items like the horticulturalist, the arborist, the miraculous steel plow. There is only two downsides for these farms. The first one is that while they have a lot less modules, the building itself is slightly larger. This is a 6x4 versus, you can see the coffee was 4x3. The caoutchouc is 3x3, and the second is that they do need to be placed inside the hacienda radius. If I put it here, it won't work anymore. If you have any question about those hacienda farms in general, don't hesitate to ask in the comments below. But now, before we look at how powerful these can be, let's review what we could do before the hacienda. Producing 78 tons of caoutchouc per minute, thanks to a number of farms with tractors, thanks to this fuel station, fuel coming from here. You have, of course, a lot of fields, because your typical farm of caoutchouc is already a lot of fields, but with the tractors, even with items to reduce the number of fields, you get to 172. This is indeed important, is I am using both the arborist and the horticulturalist to decrease the number of modules. If you're min-maxers, this is critical. There is a lot of videos out there. I won't bore all of you with the details, but if you don't know, don't hesitate to check that out or to tell me in the comments below. You know, it is always better to reduce your modules than to use things like the phosphorus to increase modules and productivity at the same time. We're also boosting the working condition at plus 50%, and we have the botanical garden for plus 25% and the caoutchouc fertility actually. This is like most islands in the New World before the hacienda, zero workforce island, meaning there's no population at all. Thanks to all of those items, you know, each of the buildings doesn't need any workforce. And this is also what enables to put the plus 50% working condition, because you have no negative impact when you do that. There's no riots, actually don't have any fire station, police station or hospitals, and you will always be fine. If you look here, there is no chance of incident because we're below 200 population on the island. So all in all, given the space that you can see on this island, this is a pretty optimized island. Now let's see what we can do with the hacienda. Can we do better? Now, this is the exact same island we just looked at, but with the hacienda. You can see it is the same island, but it does look slightly different. We still have the same harbor area, we still have the same oil production, but everything else is pretty much different. We now have some population, we now have some chewing gum production, and of course we do have caoutchouc for the rest of the island. Let's cover first why some population. It's for two reasons. The first one is that those chemical plants, chewing gum, do require a lot of workforce. In this case here, 187 Obrero workforce, and until DLC 11, we still need local workforce. In the new world, we don't have commit your peers, at least not without mods. And the second reason, which is even more important, is that with more population, with increased population, the radius of the hacienda increases. It is now 25, which is not the maximum is 40, but it's definitely a lot better than the basic 15 that you get when there's no population. And we definitely need that increased radius to take advantage of those farms. We'll discuss why. Let's also quickly discuss this Obrera quarter, which is covered by one town hall with items to increase the workforce. You can see this one plus 50%, this one plus 40%, as well as Dr. Mercier, which increases workforce by plus 25%, but also reduces chance of riot by 100%, which is quite critical here to avoid riots, despite the negative happiness that you can see here, which is due to the fact that I've increased my chewing gum production by plus 50%. Talking about the chewing gum production, you can see it here. It's also boosted by 3 items. The double redundancy, which has a plus 50% productivity. The Get Rich Volume 4, which increases productivity and also produces ethanol, which is always useful. And lastly, the Gold Performance Medal, which is a unique item, so make sure that you choose wisely where to put it. I would actually put it here because it enabled me to use the exact space I had to get the exact production of chewing gum I need for my whole empire, which is also one of the reasons why I put it on this island. It was exactly the space I needed for that production. And the second reason is, of course, because one of the 3 inputs is the caoutchouc. So this way it is delivered directly from the farm to the chewing gum. I don't need to transport it. But now I know you're all wondering what caoutchouc production we actually have on this island. Is it better or powerful are those farms? So let's check that with Control Q. And as you can see, consistently 88 tons of caoutchouc per minute. This is crazy. We're basically using half of the space we were using before, and we're producing more than we used to produce. We do need to discuss something very important now, but before we do so, if this was useful or entertaining, don't hesitate to smash the like button. It does help a lot. As you can see here, I am actually not using the exact same items we were using in the past. I've replaced the arborist by the super phosphate fertilizer, which increases the productivity by quite a lot, 70%, but also increases the modules by 35%. I said in the past that that was bad. You didn't want to increase your modules, you wanted to reduce them. And for min-maxing, that definitely is the case. So why am I using it here? Well, frankly, because it leads me to the main challenge I've been facing with hacienda farms. One is that given the fact that they need to be in the radius, plus 2, given the fact that they are also a lot bigger than the normal farms, especially when you count both the tractor and the silo and the roads that are needed to connect all of this, well, it is actually pretty hard to fit many of them, especially on small islands like this, inside this radius. So concretely, when I put the arborist item in the trade union, I wasn't able to fit enough farms to cover all of the islands with field, with farms, caoutchouc farms. So that is why I put the super phosphate item to make sure I cover actually all of the space and still get a great production here. I'd also love to hear if you've been playing with these hacienda farms, if you found the same challenge I've had, same bonuses, if you found other tips that I didn't mention. So as we discussed, we were able to definitely improve this island with the hacienda to produce more caoutchouc, but also put a lot of new things. But because of the size of those farms and the radius of the hacienda, we weren't actually able to cover the whole island with farms. So I tried to do it on another island. And here it is. This is an even smaller island in the New World. I think probably the smallest or maybe the second smallest island that I have. And as you can see, fully covered with caoutchouc or producing only caoutchouc. It also has a lot of storage space, and this is a no population island. There is no population at all, and that's why you can see the hacienda radius is only 15, but given where I've placed the hacienda and smartly placed all of the farms, I was still able to put a lot of farms. You can see this is covering all of the space around, except here I had a bit of space here, so I put just one typical farm that is outside of the radius of the hacienda, and as you can see, this is 62 modules. So basically this was the space left after I've optimized fully this around here. I did use the same sort of trick as we discussed just previously with having the superphosphate fertilizer instead of the arborist to increase slightly the number of modules. Otherwise, there was definitely a lot of space, and it's not just a lot of space here, it was basically space over here, and space over here that was... And with this is 94 tons of caoutchouc per minute. This is huge. It's a really great island. You know, for the space, you can produce a lot. So once again, here you can see the full power of the hacienda in display of the hacienda farms. And I hope to see you next time.